Hello everyone, this is Houndawg flying with you again in another historical U.S. Navy carrier aircraft. Today is 11 November 1943 and we are flying the Curtiss SB-2C Helldiver. In 1938, the U.S. Navy issued a request for a new carrier-based monoplane scout dive bomber that could carry a 1,000-pound bomb in an internal bay and have long range. The Navy had already placed production orders by the time the SB-2C Helldiver prototype made its first flight on 18 December 1940. The development of the prototype suffered numerous and significant delays due to poor stability and handling problems, as well as lack of structural strength. The prototype crashed on landing in February 1941 due to engine failure. Curtiss implemented significant changes during the rebuild. However, the prototype broke up in the air on 21 December 1941 due to a catastrophic structural failure during a dive test. Pilot B.T. Halsey bailed out safely. The first production machine was finally completed in June 1942. It is significant to note that the Grumman TBF Adventure torpedo bomber was already in combat, even though its development had begun 2 years after the start of the Helldiver program. The Curtiss SB-2C Helldiver was 36 feet 8 inches long with a wingspan of 49 feet 9 inches and a maximum weight of 16,700 pounds. It was initially powered by a 1,700 horsepower Wright R2600 twin cyclone radial engine and a 3-bladed electrically controlled propeller. Maximum speed was 295 miles per hour with a 1,165 mile range and a service ceiling of 29,100 feet. Armament included two 20mm cannons in the wings, two 30 caliber machine guns in the rear, 8 5-inch rockets under the wings, and a 2,000-pound bomb load or Mark 13 torpedo in the internal bay. An oddity of the SB-2Cs with 1942 and 1943 style tricolor camouflage was that the underside of the outer wing panels carried dark sea blue topside camouflage because the undersurfaces were visible from above when the wings were folded. The U.S. Navy would not accept the production SB-2C until 880 modifications to the design had been made, resulting in a 42% weight increase and further delaying the Curtiss Helldiver's combat debut until 11 November 1943. The Navy's requirement for 2 Helldivers to fit on the carrier elevator further resulted in an aircraft fuselage that was short and stubby with poor longitudinal stability, which ultimately required an unusually tall vertical stabilizer to be added. The approach speed for a carrier deck landing was 85 knots, but the aileron's response below 90 knots was poor, making the airplane hard to control at the most critical phase of its flight. The fully loaded aircraft was notorious for the immediate drop off the carrier's bow during takeoff. While most of the aircraft would eventually gain altitude, it was not uncommon for the Helldivers to crash into the sea. The first version of the SB-2C was kept stateside for training, its various development problems leading to only 200 being built. The first aircrews and aircraft carrier captains strongly disliked the Helldiver and named it the Beast due to its size, weight, poor handling, and reduced range. The maintenance crews also hated the aircraft since the unreliable Curtiss electric propeller and the complex hydraulic system made the Helldiver a nightmare to maintain and keep flying. The SB-2C-3 began production in 1944 with a more powerful engine and a four-bladed prop that helped to compensate for the Helldiver's underpowered performance. The SB-2C-4 continued to fix some of the Helldiver's remaining defects. It was generally stronger and featured perforated dive flaps that produced less buffet in a dive. The Helldivers would participate in battles over the Marianas, Philippines, Taiwan, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. They were also used in the 1945 attacks on the Ryukyu Islands and the Japanese home island of Honshu, and tactical attacks on airfields, communications, and shipping. In operational experience, it was found that the U.S. Navy's Grumman F-6F Hellcat and Vought F-4U Corsair fighters were able to carry an equally heavy bomb load against ground targets and were vastly more capable of defending themselves against enemy fighters. The Helldiver, however, could still deliver ordnance with more precision against specific targets, and its two-seat configuration permitted a second set of eyes. A Helldiver also has a significant advantage in range over a fighter while carrying a bomb load, which is extremely important in naval operations. The advent of the high-velocity aircraft rockets, or HVAR air-to-ground rockets, further ensured that the SB-2C Helldiver was the last purpose-built dive bomber produced. Rockets allowed the fighters to conduct precision attacks against surface, naval, and land targets while avoiding the stresses of near-vertical dives and the demanding performance requirements placed on dive bombers. In the pre-war period, Curtiss aircraft had been highly regarded, but during World War II it became obvious that the company's engineering culture had all but fallen apart. This was the final nail in the coffin of Curtiss, the company also having been afflicted by difficulties in getting the C-46 Commando cargo lifter to fly right, and a persistent failure to design new fighters competitive with those of other U.S. manufacturers. In 1948, following the failure to sell any jet aircraft designs to the U.S. military, Curtiss-Wright sold off its aircraft product line to North American Aviation, the remainder of the company staying in business as a components manufacturer. In spite of its bad reputation, over 7,140 Helldivers were produced, and by the war's end, the SB-2C would become a legend in its own right by sinking more tons of Japanese shipping than any other aircraft in World War II. The surviving SB-2C Helldivers remained in post-war service in active-duty U.S. Navy squadrons until 1947 and in Naval Reserve Aviation units until 1950.